So I got a degree in Mobile University for listening to a whole bunch of financial podcasts. And that's where I got so much information from what I was doing my side hustles, put in some podcasts, and I loved it. In this video, I'm gonna give you the top 10 financial podcasts that I feel you should listen to. These are my personal favorite, and it helped me out tremendously. And I know it would do you the same. And if by any chance you have any recommendations, please drop your comment down below because I would love to hear it. And my top 5 is really good. And I'm also gonna rate how easy it is to follow these podcasts, that way you don't get extremely confused. So let's first start with this podcast that I recently started listening to, and it's called Nelson Financial Planning. This is a very small financial planning services that I found within Orlando, and they actually do a podcast, and it's really interesting. A lot of the conversations that they have in the podcast is about taxes. A lot of it revolves around taxes and the things that you're doing that basically could cause some tax implications. Now, when you're new to the financial journey and you don't understand taxes, this is something you definitely need to know, because there is an advantage of putting money into certain accounts that will save you so much in taxes. And that's why I love listening to this podcast. I put it number 10 because I listen to it every day, and some of the subjects are a little difficult to understand. So on the level of easiness, I'll put this more in the advanced stage, because if you don't know what finances is really about and you don't understand taxes, it might get a little difficult to understand. But still, I put it at number 10 because, as I said, we hate paying taxes and we all need to know what implications we have. Number 9 is Optimum Finance. Now, this podcast is extremely interesting. I don't see many other type of podcasts that do something similar to what this does. Optimal Finances is reading off of blogs. So off the popular blog sites, whatever articles that are out there that this podcast decides is very entertaining and something you can learn from, it would read it word for word. I like it because bloggers have different thoughts, different ways of thinking of finances, and rather than going on the net and searching for it and trying to read it, it's being narrated. And the best thing about it is it's posted daily. On the level of easiness and difficulty, I will put this on between the medium and the beginner level, because to me, the lingo that they're discussing is not that difficult to understand. It's just a way of thinking about money in a different way. And I find it very interesting and not difficult to follow. Number 8 is the Wall Street Journal, Your Morning Briefing. This podcast I particularly like because it's not only necessarily about personal finance, it could be stuff about as well what's going on in the financial market. So if you're investing and you want to hear what's going on with Apple, you want to hear what's going on with Meta, it will discuss it as a headline. And overall, it's the Wall Street Journal, which we know is reputable, and it's good to stay informed with what's going on in the market. Number 7, and to some people, they probably have this a lot higher, but to me, is the Morning Brew. Just like the Wall Street Journal, Your Morning Briefing, it's as well giving you a highlight about what's going on in the market. Now, the two people on the podcast, they're pretty hilarious, and they pick pretty good topics that are extremely interesting and something you will find fascinating, and there's always something you will learn. Now, on the level of difficulty, I would not say this is beginner. This is more medium and advanced, because if you do not have a good understanding about the financial markets and the lingo, that is being used a lot on the Morning Brew. With that being said, it's still a great podcast to listen to try to get yourself more advanced and get yourself into the world of the financial markets. Number 6 is Planet Money. This is featured on the NPR, and the reason why I like this podcast is this is not strictly just about the news. It's more like a documentary. So say they're discussing things that's going on in the border. Say there's things that's discussing about Apple, Meta, any other company out there, or anything within the financial market. It has it on a documentary style, and also it's people who go on the podcast and they interview. So it keeps it very interesting. It's also not just domestic, it's international as well. So it's discussing things about what's going on outside the US. As far as the level of difficulty, I will put this more in the medium and advanced as well. All right, now here is my top 5. Number 5, she recently just made this list because I love the way she explains finances in her podcast, and it's called Money with Katie. Now, I would admit, this podcast, I don't listen to every single episode, but man, the titles are so intriguing, and the way she explains it, it feels like she's reading an audiobook. She is really good at discussing finance and being personal and being funny and relating to a lot of people that are struggling right now when it comes to finances. She recently did an interview with J.L. Collins, the guy who wrote The Simple Path to Wealth, And it was really, really, really interesting. And the fact she could get J.L. Collins on her podcast is letting me know she's respected within the financial community. Now, as far as the level and the easiness of discussing finances, I put her across all boards because she is really good at what she does. She knows how to explain things on a basic level, and then she brings it to the medium level and then to advanced level. And throughout the whole podcast, it's like a never-ending flow of information that's very easy to understand. I'm so happy that I found her because she's really, really good. Now, number 4 is How to Money. I just discovered them recently as well, and I find these two really interesting because these two are extremely, extremely frugal. Now, I did forget to mention on the Money with Katie, she is someone that followed the whole FIRE movement. And also, these two on the How to Money, they're the same. They really believe in the FIRE movement, but they don't believe in the retirement early aspect, just the fact of building so much wealth that you could just do whatever it is you want to do. Now, these two guys walk the walk and they talk the talk. They are financially free. They go to FinCom. They have an excellent show. They know so much about what's going on in the financial community, especially when it comes to some really interesting stories that I never heard of, but they're really highly interesting stories. They air like 3 times a week, sometimes 4, and they're really cool because they're adaptable and they usually change the format of the show based upon what people are saying in the comments. Now, as far as the level of the finances, I'll put that as well from beginning to medium to advanced. They are really good at explaining all types of aspects of finance. And number 3 is the Money Guy, which I find funny because someone actually pointed this out. I'm like, it's actually 2 of them. So let's change the name to the Money Guys. But overall, that show is really excellent. These are 2 guys that are financial planners and their information is so great because they're very relatable and also they're on social media. So they're bringing the social media aspect into the show and it's a very good combination. These 2 guys also inspired me as well because I feel like they're very close with my age and they're doing financial advice to people out there, especially to a younger community, that I feel like a lot of people will have a difficulty relating to someone that's older, but I recognize knowledge is knowledge and the age don't matter, and they have proved that. If you want to learn about finances, definitely listen to these guys, man. They're like more of an advanced version of Dave Ramsey. Now, number 2 is my personal favorite. A lot of people might argue with it because they're gonna say this is not a financial podcast, but to me, when it comes to finances, a bulk of finance is to deal with behavior. And this one is one of my favorites and there's no stupid questions. This is with Angela Duckworth, who by the way is the author of Grit. If you never read it, that's an excellent book. And Mike Munn, who's actually new in the show right now, but he's part of the Utah Jazz organization. And their conversations are very smart, very thought-provoking, and I love it because I love philosophy, I love stoicism, and I love trying to get answers to difficult questions. And the questions they have is more like why we do the things that we do. And when it comes to finances, that's important. Why do we have this field to impress people? Why do we feel like running up debt is something to do? It has all these great questions, and the podcast is 1 day a week, 45 minutes to an hour, and it's very deep and allows you to become a better person and also with finances. Now, the interesting thing about this podcast is it doesn't really discuss much about finances, but a lot of stuff, as I stated, when it comes to behavior and why you do the things that you do, affects your finances. Now, as far as the easiness of finance, it's not really a finance podcast, but overall, I'm gonna say the level of the podcast is pretty high. It's pretty advanced. Angela has a way of doing so many name drops upon so many philosophers and professors that I've never heard of. But overall, the stories that she's saying is interesting. She has a very big vocabulary. Also does Mike Munn. So some words you might not understand. But hey, listen to it. You might learn a new word or 2, but at the same time, it's going to make you a better person. Now, here's my number 1, drum roll, because everyone probably already knows how in the world he did not mention this guy that everyone discusses is one of the top finance guys right now in the media, and that is Dave Ramsey. Now, pump your brakes because I know a lot of people find him very controversial, but let me explain something to you. When I was doing deliveries and I was in my mobile university getting my degree on, that guy got me through so many of my orders. I mean, first of all, he's 3 hours a day, 5 days a week. You heard me right. 3 hours a day, 5 days a week. If you go right now into Apple, you could go all the way back in his backlog when he was by himself doing all these shows. There's no other better podcast out there that, number 1, has a big enough backlog and so much information out there that you can listen to and it would take you months and possibly years to go through all of them. I discovered him 6-7 years ago, and it took me so long to get up to the current state because I was into all the old podcasts, which was excellent. Now, whether you agree with him or not, that's not the point. The point is you can listen to the podcast and people can have very similar situations that you have, and he will give them advice. You don't gotta do exactly what Dave says, but come on, let's be quite honest. The man is good at what he does. Some things he says is a little stubborn, but he is running a business and he has to let people know, if you want to get debt free, you follow my principles. If you don't like it, you get out. That's the way the man is, and he's never going to change. So there you have it, guys. Those are the top 10 best financial podcasts that I listen to, that I recommend that you listen to. And the beautiful thing about podcasts is this: it's 100% free. You don't have to spend anything. The only thing it's costing you is your time. There's nothing else that's out there that's giving you great financial information from people with experience and the wisdom in finance for free. Yes, Dave Ramsey and a few others might have some stuff that you could buy, but you really don't need it. So guys, let me know, is there any podcast that I missed, or you're not liking the order, or there's something that you want to add to the list? Drop a comment down below, and at the same time, hit the like and the subscribe. Catch you guys in the next video. Peace.